Patricia, thank you so much for meeting with me today, and super special since it's World Migratory Bird Day, as I understand
Good timing.
it. Perfect. Well, as I said, it's really special to meet you today and just to learn a little bit more about you and also just understand the importance of migration. But maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself. And I have your book here, which is one of the beautiful books that you've written and worked on. I understand you arrived here in the 80s, is that correct?
Yes, came here in 80. And I'd been in the West Indies for time before that, so I was familiar with birds. So I started working, when I came there was lots of wild spaces left, especially on the sister islands. And also there was no written paper. There were 4 or 5 papers on Cayman birds. So I started finding out what was here and where they were. And then I published the first field guide in the 80s, and then I worked on a checklist for the British Museum, and it went on and on. And I'm involved in the Caribbean as well, in the Caribbean Society of Seabirds.
Well, it's an amazing career and an amazing legacy. And I think one of the reasons I really wanted to sort of meet with you is I think the importance of birds migrating is sometimes a little bit undervalued. It's not something that we really think about. Why? Perhaps you can explain why should we value the fact that birds are migrating, and what does that actually mean? I mean, I understand it as moving from where there's low resources to high resources, but why do birds do that?
Well, they do it for successful breeding, but it's a historical thing, presumably from the Ice Age, and the importance now is preserving. The majority go from North America to South America, and some of them stop in the Caribbean. And so the islands of the Caribbean have become very important as stopover sites where the birds can refuel. And some stay longer, some will actually stay all winters or 3 or 4 months and then go on. But if you take away these feeding grounds, if they've flown up from South America and they've nowhere to stop, they've got no wetlands, no forests, no fresh water, that's when crisis happens. But now there's a realization that we're running out of space and we're running out of time, added to climate change, added with climate change on it. So we need to look after what we've got, and people are beginning to. The National Trust is working hard on that. The government is, through the National Conservation Society, is preserving ecologically sensitive habitats. So the idea is to build blocks of habitat as opposed to small areas. You buy as big as you can, and you try to relate them to other areas, so the sea and the coast as well.
And so obviously that's why it's super important to to preserve a lot of the natural habitats, because that loss will then result in loss of this sort of stopover habitat for these birds. Cayman Islands, why is where it's located so important?
It's important because we're on mainly the central flyway down the Mississippi, and then we get birds from the East Coast flyway. We are seeing declines in species. Some species no longer come that were common in the 80s, and some are very reduced in numbers.
And I think just thinking about sort of the global ecosystem, again, many people wouldn't really think about the sort of the value or the impact that, so in relation to sort of birds coming from north to south and going, is there like a seed dispersal? What are the kind of general,
in a migration chain, you want to make everybody responsible on the way up, so that each stopover site becomes important, so that you just don't say those are South American birds or those are North American birds. They're actually everybody's birds. They're totally United Nations. They don't have countries, effectively. They breed in one place, winter in another, but we all share them.
So they're true global citizens.
They're global citizens, and we need to treat them as such.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just been such a pleasure to meet you, and thank you so much for just sharing some of your insights on this very, very special day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay! That was wonderful.
Thank you.